Hey, what's up guys? This video is going to be all about how to get back together with your long distance ex. So if you're in a long distance relationship that's ended too early and you want a second chance, then you're definitely watching the right video. Most of you probably already know me, but if not, my name is Brad Browning. Some people call me Breakup Brad, and I'm a relationship coach specializing in breakups and divorce. My best-selling program, The X Factor, has helped tens of thousands of people from around the world get a second chance with your ex. If you need help getting your ex back and you haven't yet seen the full-length video over my website, head over to breakupbrad.com right now and watch it before you do anything else. That's www.breakupbrad.com. Anyway, like I said, this video is about long-distance breakups. Now, a lot of people ask me long-distance breakup-related questions, so I think it's time that I made a proper video addressing this topic. Now, unfortunately, I have to start by sharing some bad news. I'd love to tell you that it's going to be easy for you to fix your long-distance relationship. I'd love to tell you that all my long-distance clients are able to get their ex back and live happily ever after. But the unfortunate reality is that being far apart, it makes things a lot more complicated. And as a result, odds of getting back together are lower than if you live just down the street from one another. So I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news there, but I do want to be 100% honest right up front so you guys watching this video don't expect miracles. That being said, the good news is that it is usually absolutely possible to get back together with your ex, even if they live far away. I've seen my coaching clients succeed in reversing their long-distance breakups hundreds of times in the past, so it certainly can be done. It's just a bit more difficult, and the chances of success depend greatly on the details of your specific relationship. For example, how far you live from your ex, how often you saw one another in person, how long you were together. Those things all influence how difficult it's going to be to get back together. If you and your ex met online and you've never met in person, or you've only met once or twice and you live on separate continents, then unfortunately your chances of getting him or her back are really very slim. I don't mean to offend anybody who's in a scenario like this, because I know your breakup is just as painful, but that kind of situation just doesn't really represent a real romantic relationship, so you can't really use the tactics that I teach in my X Factor program. For instance, how could you send my good reminder text message, which is essentially just a text that subtly reminds your ex of a happy time you shared together, if you never actually met in person? So yes, if you're dealing with an ex you met online who you've only met once or twice in person, it's probably time to start thinking about moving on. On the other hand, and this type of situation is thankfully more common, if you and your ex met in person and then you moved apart, or perhaps you met online but spent weeks or months together on holidays or in-person visits, if you live on the same continent and you can actually see one another at least once every month or two, then you have a much better shot at getting back together. And this is especially true if you have spent months or even years living in the same city with your ex, but you now live apart for whatever reason. In that type of situation, unless you've already made some pretty serious mistakes, you've got a good chance at working things out with your ex. And another factor that will determine your chances of success is time. How long has it been since the breakup? A week, a month, a year? The more time that passes, the more difficult things become. So if it's been a couple of months and you haven't been begging your ex for another chance every day since the breakup, then things may very well still be salvageable for you. If it's been a year or more, then unfortunately your odds are probably a lot lower. And it also depends on how many mistakes you've made in the time since the breakup. Hopefully all of you guys watching have already signed up for my program, or at the very least watched the video on my website to ensure you're not unknowingly making mistakes that will push your ex away. And for those of you watching who just desperately need to know whether you've still got a shot at winning him or her back, you can take the free quiz tool that I've put together to evaluate your situation and to calculate your odds. It's not a foolproof tool, but it does a pretty decent job if you answer all the questions honestly. And if you want to take that quiz, just visit breakupbrad.com/quiz. Anyway, now that you know what sort of challenge you're facing, let's talk about where to begin. If you've been apart from your ex for some time, but you haven't had any real contact with your ex, then you can safely skip the next little bit of this video. But if you have spoken to your ex more than once or twice since the breakup, or if it's been less than a month since you parted ways, then pay close attention, because this is definitely important. As soon as possible after your breakup, you want to cut off all communication with your ex. This means completely ignoring your ex for around a month or so. Generally, I recommend 30 days of not speaking to him or her. And the point of this is to show your ex that you're moving on. You're not going to wait around crying, hoping that your ex will change their mind. And this is the first step towards shifting the balance of power back in your favor. And it is absolutely critical. You need to essentially shock your ex into realizing what life is like without you. And you need to give off the impression that there's plenty of other guys or girls who would jump at the chance to date you. That puts the pressure on your ex and will make him or her have second thoughts about leaving such a desirable commodity. Now, I can't stress enough the importance of not communicating with your ex for the first while after your breakup. I've made other videos on this, and it's extensively detailed in my program, but the benefits go way beyond just the mind games with your ex. It also has scientific backing. Studies have proven that if there's little or no contact, your ex will miss you the most around 3 to 4 weeks after the breakup. Those feelings are intensified by the lack of communication, and the timing coincides nicely with your initial messages after the no contact period's over. You'll be reaching out to him or her right when they're missing you the most, right? And it's also been proven that humans tend to let go of negative memories more easily than positive ones, meaning that the no contact period lets your ex forget about why they wanted to break up in the first place, and it replaces some of those memories with nostalgia and positive emotion. And you know what else the no contact phase does? It stops you from reaching out to your ex to apologize, beg for another chance, ask for forgiveness, or anything along those lines that will usually hurt your chances of getting back together. Now, I know it may feel like a good idea to mail your ex a 5-page love note, spilling your heart out, but all that does is show your ex how much of a desperate loser you are at the moment. The truth is that no matter how badly you want to reach out to your ex and tell them how you feel and beg for a second chance, there simply isn't any words that can change your ex's mind, especially if they live hundreds of miles away. Romantic attraction is an organic, natural thing. It can't be forced. You can't make your ex fall back in love with you using words. And if you try, it'll only make matters worse. Talking about the relationship, your breakup, or any kind of drama and bickering is guaranteed to make your ex less receptive to your attempts to get back together. So avoid that kind of stuff at all costs. Instead, you need to do and say things that will change how your ex feels about you fundamentally, making them decide on their own that breaking up was a bad idea in the first place. And when you rebuild your ex's feelings of romantic attraction naturally through actions rather than words, and after you use some of the sneaky psychological tactics that I teach in my X Factor program, your ex's perception and feelings towards you are going to improve dramatically. And that's when you'll actually be able to win them back and start fresh with a new and an improved relationship. Now, what if you've already been broken up for 6 weeks, for instance, and you've talked to your ex every few days since the breakup? In that case, start the no contact period right now and stick to it for at least 2 to 3 weeks, preferably more. And make sure that during that time, you're keeping busy and you're dropping subtle hints to your ex about how well you're doing. You know, there's lots of things you can do, even when you're thousands of miles away, to convey how much you're thriving since the breakup. Use social media, for instance, or mutual friends. Post photos on Facebook of you with some new girl or guy so that your ex sees them. Tell a mutual friend about your new promotion at work so they can share the news with your ex. There's tons of things you can do. Just make sure that you're subtle and not obviously trying to make your ex jealous or upset. All right, so when the no contact phase is over and it's time to start talking to your ex again, that's when you can bust out some of my text message or email templates. And these are messages that I've specifically come up to help break the ice and get your ex interested in talking with you again. I'm not going to list off a bunch of examples in this video because it's already too long, but you can watch the free presentation on my website, breakupbrad.com, to get some more ideas on how to reestablish contact with your ex. Definitely don't just call out your ex out of the blue and ask, what's up? When you first start talking to him again, it needs to be very brief, it needs to be very fun and upbeat, and you want to leave the door open for future communication. And like I said, please go to breakupbrad.com and watch the video on my website there for more information, or pick up a copy of my X Factor guide to access all of the sample messages that I've put together for reestablishing positive communication after the no contact phase ends. If you do want to sign up for the X Factor, just visit breakupbrad.com/buy, and within a minute or two after you fill out your info, you'll have access to the full program so you can get started right now. Now, when you do first start talking to your ex again, you need to take it slow and make sure that all the interactions are fun for your ex. So no drama, no talk about getting back together, etc. Just be funny, stay positive, and make sure that your ex wants to hear from you again and will be receptive to future calls or texts from you. Maybe even drop a subtle reminder or two to trigger happy memories of happy times that you shared together, and bring up an inside joke to spark those old feelings of attraction in the back of your ex's mind. Trust me, this actually does really work well. And after slowly talking more frequently online or via phone and text, the time will eventually come where you want to either meet your ex in person or arrange a Skype or FaceTime meeting online with them. In person is way better, but you should only ever visit your ex's hometown if you have a legitimate excuse for being there. So if your ex lives on the other side of the world and you don't know anyone else in the area, then it's going to be way too obvious that you're just trying to get back together. So that's not what you want. You still want your ex to be thinking that you're just being friendly and hoping to catch up over coffee. If you're visiting your ex to meet in person, It's always best to think of a legitimate excuse for being, in the area, which will allow you to invite your ex out, for a quick drink or a bite of lunch while you're in town. And if you have to use Skype or an online web chat instead, then the same principles apply. It's just going to be a lot more difficult to use the meetup to generate attraction. Now, keep the first meetup with your ex short and sweet. Make sure you're friendly, you're upbeat, you're positive, just as you have been when you were talking online or through text. And make sure you clearly portray to your ex how well your life has been going since the breakup. Make sure that they understand that you're happy and you're enjoying the single life. And if possible, you can be a bit sneaky and mention that you've been on a few dates, or just put on a sheepish grin and say it's nothing serious, something along those lines. Don't get into specifics or talk about it further than that. It's just good to drop a hint to put some pressure on your ex and to make them feel a tiny bit jealous. And it also adds an element of mystery, so that your ex leaves the meeting curious about your new life. It's also important to add some sexual chemistry to the in-person meeting. This is the main reason why in-person is far better than Skype or phone calls, because you really can't do that online. You don't need to be all over your ex. In fact, that's a bad idea. But you should do a bit of flirting, casually touch your ex's arm, hold eye contact for a bit longer than normal, maybe drop an innuendo or a hint at something sexual that has meaning to your ex. Just generally be flirtatious, playful, and make sure your ex is having a good time and that the chemistry is positive. No talk at all about your past relationship, the breakup, etc. That's toxic. All you want is for your ex to leave the meeting thinking that they were dumb to let such a fun, interesting, and attractive person walk out of their life. Now, where things go from this point depend on how the first meeting goes and how difficult it will be for you and your ex to see one another and talk to one another regularly. So if you live close enough that you could conceivably meet again in a few weeks, then leave the first meetup by saying something like, hey, it was fun catching up, let's do it again soon. I might be back in town later this month, so I'll try to make time for us to grab a drink while I'm here. Or if the first meeting is going extremely well and the chemistry is great, then you may be able to turn the quick coffee date with your ex into dinner, drinks, and a trip back to your ex's house for some sexy time. But don't expect that to happen, obviously, the first time you meet with your ex after the no contact period. Normally, it'll only be around 20 or 30 minutes. However, if your ex does seem extremely flirty and interested in hanging out for longer, you can go with the flow and see what happens. But remember not to bore your ex, get drawn into any drama, or stick around too long. If you come on too strong, your intentions are obviously going to become obvious and you're going to do more harm than good. Now, for most people, it'll take more than just one meeting with their ex to actually get back together, and that's fine. Continue to give him or her lots of space, continue to put on your happy face, and stay busy with your exciting new life. And continue making sure that your ex knows what kind of cool stuff you've been up to since the breakup. And of course, send him or her the occasional funny message, thoughtful reminder, inside joke, etc., building your connection as best you can via text or online messages. And if you chat on the phone, make sure to keep it brief, fun, and interesting, and always be the one to end the call before your ex has the chance. When the time is right, you can build up to another in-person meetup. And this time, you'll be going into the date with better chemistry and a stronger connection, so you can continue the flirting and essentially continue to charm and seduce your ex. Now, it might take several meetups, phone calls, and messages over the course of weeks or months, but eventually you should reach the point where your ex is receptive to sex or to the idea of giving your relationship a second chance. Don't rush the process. Just remember that the goal is to build natural attraction so that your ex decides to take you back on their own. That's the only things that are going to work out in your favor, and if you don't lose sight of that, then you'll be well on your way to getting back together. Like I said, I also urge you to visit my website, breakupbrad.com, for more tips and strategies that you can use right now to win back your ex, even if it's a long-distance relationship. And again, the URL is breakupbrad, pretty easy to remember, and I've got a full-length how-to video up there on the homepage, one for women, one for men. And of course, if you've got questions, just leave them in the comments below and I'll try my best to find time to respond to as many as I can. I love chatting with you guys in the comments, and I also really appreciate your likes and subscribes. It gives me the motivation to keep making these videos. That is it for now, folks. Thanks for sticking with me during this very lengthy video. Hopefully you learned something. Stay tuned for another breakup advice video that'll be coming out soon. And best of luck winning back your ex, and thanks for watching.